Good morning. Today is Wednesday, August 7th. The year is 2024. This will be a little short video before I go get some breakfast. I was going to cook breakfast, but I ain't cooking today. I was born in 1970, 2 years after Dr. Martin Luther King was shot and killed in Memphis, Tennessee. Growing up in Gary, Indiana, which to me, Gary was a beautiful city as a kid because it was middle. I grew up in a middle class black neighborhood, or lower to upper middle class black neighborhood of families who worked at the steel mill or worked somewhere. They all worked at the steel mill. They owned their houses. They maintained their houses. They had beautiful yards. I remember how clean the streets were in Gary as a kid in the early 70s. Living on Tennessee Street. I remember the school, how clean the school was, and it's a lot of stuff about Gary that was very positive when I was in the early 70s. As Gary was going through white flight and the white ran about of Gary. But what I do remember the most about Gary is my father, because my father worked at the U.S. Steel Mill, and my father liked to hunt. He was a hunter. He had a huge garden, him and my uncles. I remember a lot of stuff because my father was right there with me. Living in the same household, my mother and father. And like most people on my street at that time, most people in Gary, Indiana, on the streets that I lived in, everybody had their mother and father there. They were participating in raising their children. My uncle, all my cousins, everybody had a mother and father. Everybody. We had uncles and aunts, the whole family. At this point, back in the 70s, I would say the black family was united as a unit, but that was going to change as we moved into the late 70s and the early 80s. What changed about what? I don't know. Maybe it was the divorce rate. My mother got a divorce. Just things begin to change rapidly for black families. All this took place after Dr. Martin Luther King's death and the civil rights movement. My father was illiterate. He could not read nor write. I used to be so embarrassed about this. Didn't quite understand why he couldn't read or write, But he was working at the steel mill, raising 7 children, feeding us, clothes on our backs, electricity and heat on, brand new cars outside. Mother had her car, my father had a car. For the most part, we grew up a pretty decent lifestyle. No, we didn't have no expensive shoes or expensive clothes. We got our clothes from Sears. I've been buying Robux jeans. My brother used to tear his jeans up all the time. I took better care of my clothes. It was a different world back then. So when I hear these guys complaining about the Democrats have changed or became anti-family, I don't even think this has anything to do with the Democrats or the Republicans, what has happened to the black family unit. I just think that when divorce became available and there were other options available, I think a lot of black women opted out of their marriages like my mother did. Although she didn't have any income nor a job. Maybe she felt she could survive on her own without my father, although there were 7 children at home. I think black women made the decision, a lot of black women, because all my mother's sisters, my aunts, got divorces from their husbands who all had great jobs and incomes too. My mother said there was a curse on the family. I don't think it was a curse. It's just these women made some decisions to get divorces from men that they probably should have kept. But my father was there raising us. I was a very, very picky eater as a kid. I didn't like to eat food. I didn't want to eat this, I didn't want to eat that. I was real picky. My father had a white belt, all these holes in it, and he would sit on the table and tell me to eat. And I was scared of my father, of course, so I had to sit there and eat the food that he prepared. He would sit right next to me and tell me to eat. In retrospect, I'm so glad he did that, because now I meet these guys and they're all such picky eaters. I'm not a picky eater, as you all can tell. I weigh almost 250-some odd pounds. I eat what I'm supposed to eat. I don't eat shellfish, because I'm allergic to it, unfortunately. But I eat everything else. When I was a little kid, I didn't like cornbread. I didn't like greens. I didn't like this. I didn't like that. But now, I eat it pretty regularly. In fact, maybe I don't know about that. There's a restaurant that sometimes have that liver special on Wednesdays, and I normally go up there and get the liver. I might go get that damn liver. But I gotta get there early because they sell out that damn liver fast. That liver be gone. And let me see if they even have it on the menu today. Liver and grilled onions. Today's menu. Let's see what they got at Magnolia Cafe. They got fried chicken, grilled lemon pepper, boneless chicken, Spring Mountain fried chicken tenders, premium American fried catfish. They got a lot of fried fish up there today. A lot of fried foods today. Premium chopped sirloin and onions. So that means that they got that sirloin and onions. They ain't got the liver and onions. Pork chopped white rice, Springer Mountain baked chicken, breast and wing or leg and thigh. Oh, wait a minute. They do have beef, liver, and onions today. I might go up there and get that. We'll see. That might be my. I like that beef, liver, and onions, grilled onions. I always get a double dose of it. But the reason I'm doing this video, I keep hearing all these guys, these men have not stepped up to the plate and made a wise decision to marry these women that they're having sex with. They don't want to do that. They don't want to take on responsibility. So these guys get these women pregnant, and of course they pretend like, oh yeah, well, we not married and that's my baby's mama, and the reason why this is going on is because of the Democrats. And the Democrats had nothing to do with what you did with your penis. And why you didn't marry that woman before you put your penis inside of her. My father was married to my mother before he had 7 children with them back in the 70s. I was born in 70. My other sisters, brothers, the 3 oldest ones were born in the 60s, late 60s. I think Mia was born in 66, 65, 66. She's the oldest. There was 7 of us. But anyway, having a father around was a very positive experience for me. But the most, like I said, go back to my father not being able to read and write. So I was embarrassed about this. My father would come in with mail from the mailbox, or maybe there's something in the news that he wanted to hear about. He'd come to me in the newspaper, and I might be playing with my friends or whatever, and he'd come over with this letter and say, read this to me. And of course I can read, and if I didn't, I would be reading this stuff to my father and embarrassed about it. I don't know why I was so bad. Little kids just embarrassed about it. And my father would also bring me the paper and tell me to read it to him. And I'd read the paper to him, newspaper articles. And if there was a word I couldn't understand, I didn't understand it, I had to look up in the dictionary. If he, what does that mean? I had to look up in the dictionary or the encyclopedia. We didn't have no Google back then. But one thing that my father instilled in me was seeking knowledge. He was, even though he could read and write, he wanted to gain knowledge. My father was out of Mississippi. Grew up in the Jim Crow era. I think my oldest uncle JC could read and write. But the other ones, I don't think they struggled. I think they struggled. Now, little did I know, at that time, quite a few people in Gary, Indiana could not read and write. Quite a few parents. And later on, I found out that a lot of these parents were going to school to get their GED and all this stuff. I didn't have no idea. I was a little kid. How would I know this? But as I grew older, I found out there was quite a literacy rate for people coming out of Alabama and Mississippi was very high because they were not educated when they couldn't get an education at the time. My father was, if I was born in 1970, I think my father was probably in his late 20s, maybe. When I was born, mid to late 20s. My father was older than my mother. But my father was a great father. He took care of us. He provided for us. We didn't want for anything. As to why my mother got divorced, she has different reasons why she did that, and she just literally regrets it to this day. because she should never have done that. But, hey, what's done is done, is water under the bridge. But the way these guys sit around, and the reason why I keep going, because I talk to some of these black guys, and they're going back and forth about why they're not married to these women they have these children with, and they blame it on the Democrats. And they blame it on the no-fault divorce, but you never were married. How'd you end up with all these kids with various women, you never married to them? It just seems very odd to me. And I also think, me now being in my 50s, I know the importance of having a mother and a father in the family. Because I'm looking at so many young men, younger than me in their 30s and 40s, who did not have a father. And they never even knew who their daddy was. They never had, and they have struggled in life. They've had some struggles with their own identity, and this is who they are. I knew who I was. The first person to accept me as a gay black little kid was my father. He knew. No big deal for him. My mother and father never attacked me because of my sexuality. Never. I never had any issues that I've heard other black people say they were thrown out their house. They had all these problems and all this crazy. I never had any of those issues. And I think everybody pretty much knew who I was as a little kid. It was, so my father couldn't read, he couldn't write, but he was an intelligent man. No, he didn't have book knowledge, but he knew how to raise and take care of his children, something that you don't see any of these men doing today. It's unfortunate what took place between my mother and father, and that she made a horrible decision. I don't know why she made the decision to divorce my father. She'll tell you how you ask her today, she got a million different reasons why. But I've learned something. A lot of black women don't like being told what to do. And even to this day, me and my mother bitter arguments about back and forth, me trying to tell her, certain things that she's doing incorrectly. She just does what she wants to do. But that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to do a short video. You got all these guys running around here. They don't want to be responsible. They don't want to marry these women. But they have these kids. It's just very strange to me. Very odd indeed. It's the middle of summer. It's hot. It's going on 12 noon over here, and I have not ate nothing. I was going to cook breakfast. I don't feel like making no mess. Then I was going to go pick up breakfast. But now I see they got liver and onions over there. I'm trying to decide, should I go up to this place and get breakfast food, or should I go get lunch? I don't know. It's a good decision. I'm sure I'm not going to cook nothing. I don't have the energy. I'm tired. Last night I came in from the gym. I was so sore, y'all. I was so sore last night. I decided to take a bunch of pain pills and get my ass in that damn bed, and got me kind of groggy now, but I had to do something because I was sore as hell. I feel a lot better today. But I was with my workout partner. We be hitting them weights hard. He's in his 30s. I'm 54, so, I held in there with him. I said, okay, let me just hang in here. And shit was heavy as hell, but I kept where I rock with him. Yeah, my father was a good guy. He was there at that house. He wasn't on drugs. He wasn't running from the police. He was an alcoholic. He went to work in a steel mill. In fact, working in the steel mill, my father got mesothelioma, the asbestos poison in his lungs. And at that time, they didn't know what it was, or they claimed they didn't know what it was. When my father got sick, he ran from hospital to hospital. It was during this time period that my mother decided she filed for divorce. So much through sickness and health. And my father ended up, after my mother finally got divorced, he ended up on Social Security disability. And we used to get these disability checks. It was just a weird time. I remember that. There was a check for all the kids. My father eventually got a settlement with U.S. Steel that went to him and his now new wife, Ruby. That money, if my mother had remained married, it would have went to her, and it would have greatly helped her lifestyle. Although she is getting my father's Social Security check, because she's been married to him for so many years. Black families have it rough in this country. We know about racism. We know about so much stuff that has destroyed, that has put a heavy weight on the black family. But I cannot sit here and say the Democrats or the Republicans are even remotely responsible for the issues in black America today. I do know racism has played a huge role in this. But we also have to take a look in the mirror at our own actions. And things that people keep saying that Johnson put the food stamps in the black community. And that destroyed the black family. Because black women decided they didn't want their husbands no more, they wanted the food stamps. Well, my problem with that is, why did only black women take up, if this is what happened, why did only black women decide, well, we're going to take the food stamps, but no other race of people decided, white women decided to keep their husbands. Latinos and Hispanic kept their husbands. They still married. They had marriage made. Only black women made the decision to get rid of the husband, and we're going to take Uncle Sam's food stamps. If this is accurate, which I don't think is accurate at all. There are problems, systematic problems within the culture of black people that we have not dealt with, that we tend to ignore. Black men and black women have a very tough time getting along together. Black men and black women, black men and black men, me and Earl. Me and Earl can't even sit down and sit at this counter and make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich together in peace and harmony. It won't happen. We have not learned how to get along as a race of people. In our marriages, in our relationships, raising children. I listen to these nightmares that everybody says about these being on child support payments and can't even see their kids, and fighting with these women and going back and forth to jail, the women calling the police and telling a bunch of lies. I see it all. But I think some of this stuff could be avoided. Particularly if you are a black man and you are fertile and you want children, you need to really make sure this black woman that you're marrying, that you should marry, wants to have children with you and stay with you. And then she just don't want a baby in child support payments. These men are angry running around here. They're mad. But they're not mad at their own actions. Like I said at the beginning, my father married my mother and had 7 children with my mother, not 7 different women. I personally don't have any children. I never wanted to have any. That just wasn't my thing. I know that some men, we want to have a family, but I understand you want to have a family, but you can't have a family when you got 8 children by 8 different women running around here. When did you decide you wanted to have this family? I get confused. Now we had this election movement, and these niggas running around and saying, they gonna vote for Donald Trump, and the Republicans, they got family values. I'm like, okay, make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. If you were interested in family values before the first baby that you had came out, you would have made sure that you married that woman, or you were having sex with the woman you wanted to marry, because when you have sex with a woman and you're not using the condom, she's going to get pregnant and she's going to have a baby. So therefore, the woman that you are having sex with, is this who you want to have a baby with? Do you need to marry her? It's as simple as that. But instead, they have multiple children by multiple women, and it's the Democrats' fault. Figure that out. I'm not voting for Kamala Harris because the Democrat, I'm not voting.